All right, everyone. Welcome back to another Methough. Yes, we're getting two roughly back to back. Last part was episode 27. This part is episode 28. And today we're going to be talking about what is going on at Xbox. And like I mentioned in my last video where I was talking about the state of the gaming industry and where it's at. Hold on, let me do this real quick. I apologize for the extra noise. Let me do this real quick so y'all can really hear me. So hopefully y'all can really hear me now, because now the microphone is like really pointed at my mouth. But anyway, so the last part we talked about what's going on in the gaming industry. Why does it seem like it's in shambles, specifically the AAA side of things? And I might have hinted at it a few times. Like I said in that video, I had done that video multiple times up until that point. And so there was probably some things I left out, some things I probably added. But one of the biggest things that I really wanted to talk about was what's going on with Xbox. So for all you out there who don't know or have not been keeping up, Xbox has been going through it here recently. Within the past month or two, they've really been going through it. And so for all you out there who, once again, may not know and pay attention to the gaming industry side of things, or the industry side of the gaming industry, as I should say, just here recently, Xbox shut down 4 studios. And the reason why a lot of people are in such an uproar about them shutting down these 4 studios is because 2 of the studios were big studios that they just purchased a couple years ago. And 2 of them were mobile. Now, I'm not trying to dismiss the mobile side of things, because at the end of the day, everybody in the gaming industry, especially when you're talking about the big wigs, your EAs, Activisions, and all of that, they're all trying to get into that mobile division, which I think a lot of them already have gotten into that mobile division. I know Activision definitely is with Candy Crush and stuff like that. I know EA is with whatever the fuck they got, but they make more than enough money with Madden and all of that. But you know, all of these companies got to have all the monies in the world, right? But anyway, my point is that they shut down 2 mobile studios and 2 AAA studios. Those 2 AAA studios being Arcane Austin and Tango Gameworks. Now, if you don't know what those 2 studios have made, I'll give you this. When it comes to Arcane Austin, they made the most recent flop that everybody was clowning on, Redfall. But before that, they made Prey and Dishonored, which were 2 games that were, I mean, you've heard of Dishonored. Even if you've never played Dishonored, you have heard of Dishonored. They made the first one, from what I understand. And then when it comes to Prey, that sequel to an old FPS, but they made it like its own thing or whatever, like a life sim or whatever they was calling it. Basically, that is what they also made. So they made those 2. They made, or technically 3, but they made Redfall, Dishonored, and Prey. When it comes to Tango Gameworks, on the other hand, though, now we're talking about something completely different. This is the studio that Shinji Mikami, I ain't gonna say that he started, but from what I remember, I think he did. But at least he was a part of after he left Capcom, and that's how we got Evil Within 1 and 2. Yeah, I bet you a lot of you raised your eyebrows when I said that. Like, wait, that studio? Yes, the studio that made the Evil Within 1 and 2 got shut down. Now, let me say this. None of these studios technically got shut down. They got rolled into other studios within Xbox, but at the end of the day, those studios are dead and gone. The name Tango Gameworks is now officially dead. The name of Arcane Austin is now officially dead. Yeah, those people may have been rolled into other companies, but those studios are now officially dead, along with the other 2. So a lot of people were surprised when this happened, right? Oh, and I meant to say this too. They also made Ghostwire Tokyo and Hi-Fi Rush, which we'll talk about here in a second. But the reason why a lot of people are upset by this is because of, well, one, Xbox just put out Hi-Fi Rush not too long ago, which was made by Tango Gameworks. And what made everybody so puzzled on why they would shut down Tango Gameworks is because Hi-Fi Rush was the first game that Tango Works had put out post Shinji Mikami, if I'm not mistaken. I think he had some play in Ghostwire Tokyo, and I think Hi-Fi Rush was like their first game without Shinji Mikami being a lead at the studio, right? And the thing that made it even more weird was that, I was about to say Capcom, Microsoft didn't really advertise that game. For all you out there, and I hate to keep on repeating that, but it's true because I know there's a lot of people out there that don't pay attention to this side of the industry. So I have to keep on saying that because I know there's going to be people out there that don't know these things. So I hate to keep on saying it, but it's just how it works out. But for all you out there who may not know, Xbox dropped that game during the Game Awards. I think it was the Game Awards if I'm not mistaken, but it was like during one of those game shows where they show off shit and give awards or whatever, but I'm pretty sure it was the Game Awards. They had just blatantly announced Hi-Fi Rush like right then and there. It was like a shadow drop per se. And they dropped it and it did extremely well for it to be a shadow drop and an Xbox first party exclusive. But I guess that wasn't enough for them, even though they never put any marketing behind it. And then not only that, they end up turning around and dropping it on PS5, and that still wasn't enough. It was just really weird on why Xbox is doing all of this stuff, particularly now after they have acquired all of these studios. Remember, way back when, I had made a Methough talking about all the studios that Xbox had acquired, and Tango Gameworks and Arcane was one of them. Well, technically, that falls under the Bethesda umbrella. Let me take that back. They had acquired some studios before then. Then that's when they acquired Bethesda. And Bethesda is the umbrella company, or technically is ZeniMax. It's ZeniMax / Bethesda. But you get my point. Tango Gameworks and Arcane Austin and all of those were under the umbrella. I don't know about the mobile divisions, those mobile studios, but is specifically Arcane and Arcane Austin and Tango Gameworks, they was under that Bethesda / ZeniMax umbrella. So it was just really weird how all of a sudden the hammer had come down on them. But then at the same time, you got fucking Bethesda releasing Starfield. It's like, what? Y'all gonna shut down the studio that gave y'all a small budget game that got mad critical acclaim and praise from once again critics and fans, made a decent amount of money for a shadow drop. I don't know how many units it sold, but I'm pretty sure it sold a decent amount with it being a shadow drop and you not giving it any kind of marketing budget even post launch. And that's okay, but you not knocking at the front door. Bethesda like, hey, how y'all putting out this hot garbage? Like, how y'all gonna put out Starfield this hot garbage? But then you see what I'm saying? But just like my video where I talked about the gaming industry, where it's going, I'm gonna take the same route with this. I wanted to save it for a little bit later. Luckily, we're only 7 minutes in, so we're not that too far in. If you made it this far, shout out to you. I'm pretty sure a lot of you didn't, but if you did, shout out to you. This is where I think all of this is coming from. And it's something that I'm telling you, I don't think a lot of people paid attention to. And once again, I brought this up in my video talking about the gaming industry. And it's true though, this era is the era that people really need to study to figure out why we got here when it comes to the gaming industry. And people really need to study this era because this is particularly when Xbox really set itself up to fail. So let me explain. Let me get into my bag real quick with the history lesson, right? So when the PS3 and the Xbox 360 came out, the Xbox 360 was on top, right? And if you don't know, once again, it's well documented. You can go and look it up. The reason why the Xbox 360 got so much support during that era and was the main go-to console, because remember, during this time, Call of Duty was putting their map packs out on PlayStation first. On Xbox first, right? Remember, like World at War, Modern Warfare 1, I remember because I was gaming during that time. I had an Xbox during that time. I couldn't afford any of the fucking map packs, but I sure as fuck always saw them when they popped up on Xbox. So I know about that stuff. When I talk about this stuff, I'm talking about it from firsthand experience. So all the Call of Duty DLC was coming out first. During that time, some of the biggest franchises that we have now, which funny, both of them have kind of went the way of the dodo, especially one in particular. But my point is that both of these franchises that became huge started off on Xbox and were Xbox exclusives. I'm about to say BioWare, but I'm going to say Mass Effect and Saints Row. Remember, Saints Row and Mass Effect, both of those games are still locked. Well, not Mass Effect. Mass Effect, you can actually buy the Legendary Trilogy now and get the first game. But for the longest, if you did not have a PC or you did not have an Xbox, you could not play Mass Effect 1. It was locked to the 360. I know that because about time I got into Mass Effect, I had a PS3. I didn't have an Xbox 360 anymore. I had a PS3, and I had to pick it up from Mass Effect 2. And they even put at the beginning of the game where you can choose the more important options from the first game as they recap it, so you can then therefore play Mass Effect 2, because Mass Effect 1 was still locked to the Xbox once again if you didn't have a PC. So that helped them out a lot, having something like that. Same thing with Saints Row. You can play Saints Row 2 on PS3. You can play Saints Row 2 on PC, even though it's broken to all hell. You can play it on other consoles, but if you want to play that first Saints Row, you have to play it on Xbox because it was an Xbox exclusive, and it still is. And this is where they set themselves up to fail, because they had so many third-party games like Call of Duty and stuff like that, Battlefield, all of these other games that were coming to Xbox first. They had the exclusives like Saints Row and Mass Effect coming from these big companies and big publishers, right? And of course, I'm not going to go over the extensive history and catalog of what Xbox had and stuff like that, or better yet, had during that era. It's just more of the point of, just using general shit. The simple fact that they had all of this shit at their disposal. And here's one of the biggest things. This is what I forgot to say. The reason why, y'all know how I am. I try to keep it focused, but sometimes I kind of go off and scramble a little bit. And I apologize for that. But one of the biggest things, and one of the reasons why a lot of people jump ship to the Xbox 360, despite having the red ring of death and overheating issues and all of that shit, despite it having those problems, the reason why people jump to the Xbox 360 over the PS3, and once again, this is well documented, you can go and look it up, is because the PS3 was harder to develop for than the 360. The 360 was a fucking cakewalk compared to the PS3. That's why a lot of games not only ran better on Xbox 360, but a lot of developers went to the 360 because it was just a lot easier to develop for. Don't get me wrong, we all know if it was a first party game like The Last of Us or Uncharted or anything like that, the PS3 was spanking the fuck out of the Xbox 360. There's not even a question to that. When it came to first party games and people, studios that actually took their time to work with the PS3 and its architecture and stuff like that, boy, did we fucking benefit from it. But a lot of developers and a lot of companies are just like, bro, I'm fucking good on that. I'm not going to waste my time on that. So that's why the 360 got a lot during that era. And so what that ultimately ended up doing, and it's a dynamic that a lot of people have already talked about in the gaming industry, which is fairly fucking true, or really fucking true, not fairly true. It is really true. And that is, these gaming companies, for some reason, when they get their ass whooped and they're losing, they become humble. But when they're winning, they become arrogant. And it's the same thing that happened with Xbox. It's the same thing that's happened with PlayStation. PlayStation did that shit during the PS4 era. That's a different topic for a different day. We'll get into all of that when we get into all of that. But you get my point. It always goes back and forth. During the PS2 era, right? The PlayStation was winning. Don't get me wrong. I'm pretty sure Xbox had the better games. I know there's a lot of diehard original Xbox fans. My cousin had one. Both of my cousins actually had one. So I got to experience a lot of the Xbox stuff too. But let's not act like the PS2 wasn't the superior console just in sales wise. And I would even go as far as to say library as well. Like if you go and look at the PlayStation library, PlayStation 2 library compared to the Xbox library, it's gonna fucking far exceeded. And also they had a lot to do with Japanese developers and stuff like that, because the Xbox did not sell well in Japan. The Xbox has never sold well in Japan. Japan does not fuck with American shit. They might fuck with rap and all of that, but they do not fuck with Microsoft or Xbox. Like, they do not fuck with that shit. Like, that's real talk. You go look it up. That is well documented. The Xbox has never sold well in Japan. And that was one of the reasons why I'm even more confused why they closed Tango Gameworks when they never really had that kind of opening in the Japanese market to get more people. And to me, with a studio like Tango Gameworks, that could have helped them out quite a bit. But anyway, that's neither here nor there, right? At the end of the day, they shut it down and it was a stupid decision. But during this era, when they had all of this shit going on, where they was getting all of these games and they was getting all of these exclusives, it made their head get big, right? It made their head get extremely big. And that's why when the Xbox One came out, they started doing all this extra shit that nobody was fucking asking for. And that's one of the reasons why it was called the Xbox One, because it was supposed to be a TV thing. It was supposed to be a DVD player. It was supposed to do this. It was supposed to do that. And, you know, they end up coming out with the Kinect that nobody fucking wanted. I'm not gonna lie. When I was a kid, I low-key wanted it just for Dance Central. Luckily, my fat ass never got that shit because it would be collecting dust right now. But you get my point. They was trying to do too much. And so because they were trying to do too much, and not only that, this is the biggest thing. And once again, this is facts. When I'm speaking to y'all, it's facts. This is not an opinion. This is not me getting shit out of my ass. This is facts. Then you pair that up with the Xbox One being nowhere near as powerful as the PS4 when it came out. And then not only that, the PS4 was way easier to develop for. And then not only that, Sony did the exact same thing that Xbox has done. And they constantly was putting out money to get exclusives. That really fucking hurt Xbox. That really hurt Xbox. And what that ended up doing though, and this is where I'm ultimately getting at. Y'all know how I am by now. I go on these weird tangents and I go on these weird paths, but I'm telling you, it always leads back to what I'm talking about. And ultimately what this ended up doing is that it ended up exposing a weakness that Xbox never knew that they fucking had. And that is the number one thing people have been talking about for over a decade now. And once again, this is fucking facts. They do not have any first party games. See, during the PS3 era, even though Xbox was getting all the good shit, Sony still held it down because of their first parties. They still had Gears of War. They still had Sly Cooper. That's when they came out Resistance. Remember, Resistance came out during that time. That was a first party exclusive. That was Insomniac, right? So you're talking about Resistance. You had Uncharted. You had The Last of Us, even though that came out towards the tail end. They had mad first party exclusives and a lot of third party exclusives from Japanese developers that kept that console alive. They still had third party support. They did. Let's not act like it. Like I said, I still play Saints Row 2 on there. I play Saints Row 3 on there. I play GTA 4 on there. There was a lot of games that were still coming out for the PS3. Let's not act like it wasn't when it comes to the third party aspect of it. Meaning your EA and Activisions and all of them. That's third party. But their first party shit held them down. So when that switch ended up happening where the PS4 became the dominant platform, it was easier to develop for. It was more powerful than the Xbox 360. I mean the Xbox One. That is when the cracks in Xbox armor started to form. And then as time went along, we just saw that armor slowly chip away until it was nothing but a bare body of the Xbox. Because they didn't have any exclusives, and they still don't have any exclusives today. Think about it. Name all the Xbox exclusives that have come out during this generation. And I'm talking about the real deal exclusives. I'm talking about those. Let's really talk about it. What have we been getting this whole time? Gears, which another Gears is about to come out. Ooh, another Forza. Ooh, another Halo. What else is there? That's the main reason why they bought all them fucking studios, was to get first party studios under their fucking belt, under their umbrella, so they can continuously make some. Now let's look at what PlayStation came out with during that time. Talking about on the PS4 during that era. God of War 2018. A whole brand new reboot. God of War 2018. Spider-Man. They rebooted Ratchet and Clank. Sly Cooper's still dead. We rest in peace to Sly Cooper. He's still dead, right? They came out with another Uncharted. They came out with another Last of Us. That's just 5 Sony exclusives right there I just named. That's 5. Don't matter whether or not you like them. I don't give a fuck about that. You don't have to like the games. I already know a lot of people don't like The Last of Us Part 2, even though I don't think it's that bad of a game. I think it has flaws, but I genuinely enjoyed it from beginning to end, especially with me playing it again here the second time. I thought it was really fucking good. I'm not gonna say phenomenal because it does have problems, but I thought it was really fucking good. But you get my point. I just named 5 exclusives, maybe 4. Sometimes I can't count. Sometimes I'm kind of stupid, but you get my point. I just named 5 exclusives that came out during that generation of PlayStation. Once again, I don't care if you don't like the games. I don't fucking care about that. At the end of the day, facts are facts. And that's the main thing that I fucking go by is facts. And what are facts is that those are 5 big exclusives that came out on the PlayStation just within that generation. I'm not even counting the countless others that probably came out. You can even throw in the Persona games in there, because the Persona games are just now hitting Xbox. That's why it became such a big deal when they re-released Persona 3 and Persona 4 and Persona 5 on Xbox. They've never even had the Persona games. That's always been on PlayStation or something like that. So you can even throw those in there, even though that's not like a first party exclusive. You get my point. It might as well be. That to me is where Xbox fucked up. They never had any first party studios. They never had any first party games. They built up their armor on the back of the third party shit. But when that third party decided to jump ship and go to PlayStation, i.e. Activision, because remember, I just told you at the beginning, they was making mad bread and they was doing good during that 360 era because Activision and Microsoft were buddy. It is kind of funny how it all comes back around full circle when now they own Activision, but you get my point. They were all buddy. But when that PS4 came out, and that's where the user base was, everybody was looking like, hey, yo, Xbox, you did us good during the 360 era. We fuck with you. You always gonna be our homeboy. But hey, like, that's where the money's at. So that's where we're gonna go, because that's where the money's is at. And that's why Xbox is suffering. And the thing about it too is that the simple fact that they bought Bethesda and all the companies under them, they turned around and bought Activision, which was a huge fucking purchase. That is still, I mean, I don't really see any purchase going above that for a long time, but that's still one of the biggest acquisitions in gaming history. Them buying them for how many ever billions of dollars it was, buying Activision and everything that comes under that umbrella. Even though they did all of that, even though they bought all of that, they still have no first party games. And I get it, COVID happened and all of that. Okay, I get you. I'll give you that. That's the main thing that a lot of people like to use. I get that. But for you to buy Bethesda first and have that many studios and still have no first party games that anybody can think of, and then when you do get some, you completely annihilate the studios that gave it to you, and you wonder why y'all ain't doing shit. Y'all wonder why ain't nobody fucking with y'all. You wonder why you have no games and your player base is as low as it is and everybody's going to fucking PlayStation. That's the reason why they start incorporating PC into the mix too. Don't think I didn't know that. I've caught on to that game because that's fucking brilliant marketing. It's the reason why PlayStation is now hopping on the PC market with Ghost of Tsushima and The Last of Us Part 1 and all of that shit, Uncharted and all of that. That's why they're now starting in Days Gone. That's why they're starting to hop over. That's another exclusive that came out during the PS4 era. I didn't even think about that. That's another one. Once again, it don't matter whether or not you like it. That's number 6 right there that came out during the PS3 era. That was a first party Sony exclusive, Days Gone. That's another one. I just thought about that one, right? But that's one of the reasons why Xbox did that shit. And that's one of the reasons why they're pushing that Game Pass shit so much. Is because they're trying to basically cover up the fact that they don't have shit by spreading out the shit that they have the most to everybody. That's why Phil Spencer was like, "Oh, we don't mind putting Game Pass on Nintendo." And I think I seen something where I think I was talking to my homeboy Spiff. Shout out to my homeboy Spiff, and I think he was telling me that like No More Heroes is on Game Pass now. Now, granted, No More Heroes 1 and 2 has been on PC. I think No More Heroes 2 is on PC. I know for a fact the first one is on PC, and the first one even came out on PS3 back in the day. I played it on the Wii because I just had a Wii at the time, and I got it. It's still one of my favorite games to this day. I do need to play 3, though. But you get my point. That's why Xbox is trying to do so much. So if you're talking about in that sense of what's going on with Xbox and what they're doing, I do think that that's a brilliant idea to be the first to get the whole gaming streaming service thing down, and then you can worry about the rest of the shit later. But the thing about it though, at the end of the day, y'all niggas need exclusives. Because it don't matter what you do with Game Pass, what games you get on Game Pass, the amount of platforms you have on Game Pass on, you still have no fucking games. You have all of these studios and you still don't have no fucking games. Once again, the only exclusives that I can notably think of, unless you're a hardcore Xbox fan that can think of everything off rip, anybody who doesn't really deal with whatchamacallit, that doesn't deal with Xbox or even play those games, the only exclusives we can still name to this day after 10 plus years of having them, Gears, Forza, and fucking what was the third one? I done already forgot the third one, in Halo. That's it. Those are the only three things they have. So it doesn't matter how much you try to push Game Pass and you try to put it on every platform possible, you still have no first party games. Once again, I just named 6 that come from PlayStation. I don't care if you don't like them. I don't care about any of that. That's not the point. I don't give a fuck if you don't like The Last of Us. I don't give a fuck if you don't like Uncharted or anything that I mentioned. That's not the point. Facts are still facts. I named 6 first-party exclusive that came out during that era of PlayStation. Just 6 that I could think of off top, compared to like the 3 we got from Xbox. And it's the same fucking 3 we've been having. That Spider-Man game was brand new in 2018. That's a whole new universe. Yes, it is a Spider-Man game, but it's a new iteration of Spider-Man. No different from when Arkham came out. You're not going to say Arkham is the same as an older Batman game. Why? Because it's 2 different things. Same thing with Spider-Man. Doesn't matter if it's a Spider-Man game. That's a brand new Spider-Man. Point blank period. Right? Same thing with Days Gone. Okay, yes, it's another zombie game. Who gives a fuck? It's a brand new game. It's still a new thing. Then, like I said, you can throw in the Uncharted, you can throw in The Last of Us that are sequels and stuff like that. You can throw in those if you want to, but it's still the point of, it was first party. Unless you got a PC, a lot of those are trickling over to PC. But unless you got a PC, all of that shit was first party. So my ultimate point with all of this, of going over what is going on with Xbox, how we got here. Now let's talk about what they should be doing. This is the part where I kind of put my 2 cents in it, right? Even though it's not going to make a fucking ounce of difference. I just feel like this should always be a solution, or, you know, some kind of positive thing at the end to kind of give people, you know, assurance of like, hey, you know, it's going to be all okay, or whatever the case may be. So here's my thing. After we just sit here and talked about how Xbox got here, what is going on with Xbox and all of that stuff, here's what I say is my advice to Xbox, which, like I said, I know they're never going to see, right? And this is from an outsider's perspective, by the way, a huge outsider's perspective. Like I said, I don't fuck with Xbox like that. But I did at a point in time, I do still care for some of their properties, the biggest one being Gears of War, honestly. That's why I was kind of surprised that they came out with a Gear 6. But at the same time, after playing 4, I was like, do we really even need more of this shit? Because I didn't really care for 4. And I honestly kind of stopped there. I think I may have played some of 5. And then I was like, I'm good, bro. Like, I don't give a fuck. I really don't. I like the world of Gears. Let me say that. I don't care for the games anymore, but I still like the world of Gears and what it stands for. That's what I'll say. Anywho, my point is this. This is what I think they should do. This is legitimately what I think they should do. And as a matter of fact, they're already pivoting. They're already pivoting with this because, once again, I hate to say it. Hopefully this is my last time saying it. For all you out there that may not know, they've already confirmed that this Call of Duty that's coming out this year is already going to be on Game Pass day one. That is gonna fucking help them. That Game Pass is legitimately what's saving their ass right now. It real deal is. Because the simple fact that you could just pay for a membership and then download any game you want and play it, just like a Netflix subscription, a lot of people are eating that shit up. The only reason why I haven't got it, I had it at a point in time, but the reason why I stopped is because the Game Pass on PC is not that great. If you got a console, it's way better because then you get the library to backwards compatible games and all of that shit. You get all of that. I think you get access to that. I don't know if you still have to have the disc or not. I think you might just be able to play backwards compatible games, sort of like what PlayStation did. Because I think that's one of the reasons why PlayStation came out with PlayStation Now and did a lot of that stuff where you can do backwards compatible games because, I mean, you still have to buy them though, which is kind of shitty. Because I remember my homeboy let me borrow his Xbox when he still had one, and I bought Saints Row 1 and 2, and I was gonna play it on there, and I just never got around to it. So you still gotta buy some of them, but you get my point. It's still even the simple fact that they have that available, and it's so many games that are backwards compatible, and a lot of times run better, like Red Dead Redemption 1. A lot of people say Red Dead Redemption 1 runs way better on fucking Xbox than it does with whatever they end up doing later on. Didn't they end up re-releasing that shit? I feel like they did. I feel like they end up re-releasing it Or maybe they were going to re-release it, but they canceled it. I don't know. I'm still, I don't remember that because I'm not really into Red Dead like that. But you get my point. That game, from what I understand, if they did end up re-releasing it. That's right. They did end up re-releasing it. But from what I understand, the backwards compatible version on Xbox One or Series S or whatever the fuck, their naming scheme is goddamn terrible. They need to clean that shit up. But on the Xbox One or Series S or whatever, from what I understand, it runs fucking great on there. It runs at 4K smooth 60 the whole time, which is pretty fucking cool. But the thing is that, like I said, my bad, I kind of went on a weird tangent, but to bring it back around, this is what I think they should do. One, something that they're already doing, like I said, utilize the Game Pass to the max. That's what they need to do. They need to utilize that Game Pass to the max, which is what they're slowly doing. But the other thing that they need to do, and I hate to be this kind of person because I remember this conversation came up with Deathloop. I remember that conversation came up with Deathloop on whether or not it was still going to be on PlayStation or a PlayStation exclusive or whatever it was going to be, because they had made that deal for it to be a PlayStation exclusive before Xbox had bought Bethesda. So I don't know about that one, but I know for a fact Redfall was supposed to be on PlayStation, but then it ended up being just an Xbox exclusive, which was not the best way to go about that. One of your first official first party exclusives is that fucking game. Okay. If you know the story behind that, you know the story behind that. I'm not going to get into all of that. So what I think they should do is utilize the Game Pass to its max, right? But the biggest thing that they're probably going to have to do, and I hate this, they're probably going to have to start doing the thing that they said they wasn't, and they're going to have to start cutting a lot of games and just making it Xbox exclusive. I know they did that with Starfield, which honestly, if you have a PS5 and you want to play Starfield, trust me, you're not missing out on anything. It's a fucking Bethesda game. I would even say it's worse than most Bethesda games because of the potential that it could have had, but then they decided to do the most basic shit, and yeah, it's not worth it. So you're talking about your two first party exclusives from this big ass acquisition that you did of Bethesda is Redfall and Starfield. Nah, man, they gonna have to look under that Activision umbrella and start looking through every crack, looking through every small studio that they own and that they control, and be like, give me that, give me that, give me that, give me that. That's the only way they're gonna be able to bounce back, because they can't go through another generation being hit like this. They can't. This is 2 generations in a row where they've just been getting their ass smacked by PlayStation. Like, once again, these are facts. This is not some objective shit. This is not me saying some shit subjectively or me trying to have a personal bias. This is facts. The Xbox has been getting its ass whooped when you're talking about the gaming side. Because at the end of the day, what sells consoles? It's games. That's why first party games are so important. That's why I keep on reiterating. I don't fucking care if you don't like The Last of Us or you don't like God of War, you don't like whoever from the first party PlayStation line. I don't care about that. You don't have to like any of those games, and that's 100% fine. You're not obligated to like those games. But let's look at facts. Spider-Man sells consoles. You want to know how I know? I bought my fucking PS5 for Spider-Man 2. Kratos sells consoles. That's why I originally bought my PS5 was for God of War Ragnarok. Think about it. The PlayStation 5 has been out since 2020. I did not fucking touch that shit until God of War came out in 2023. Or 2022, whenever it came out. It was either 2023 or 2022. I think it was 2023 though. No, it was 2022 because I was still working at my old job at that time. Yeah, so that was 2022 because I left in 2023. So yeah, that was in 2022. Those 2 characters move consoles. Xbox doesn't have that. So they need to go through all of these companies that they've bought and be like, hey, give me that. Give me that. Oh, that look good. Give me that. Okay, give me that. Oh, you said that was going to be on this, and that? Fuck that. It's just going to be on PC and Xbox. That's what they got to do. If they don't do that, they're not going to be around for another generation. They may be able to squeeze out one more generation with whatever the next thing they got going on. And maybe that's what they're doing. Maybe they're revving up for that. Maybe they didn't already chalk this one as a loss and they're pushing everything back to the next generation. But dude, They gotta start doing something now. They have to start cherry picking because it's looking real dire over there. And here's the thing that makes it even worse, right? This is why I'm putting emphasis on like they need to start cherry picking now. Another one of their big fucking IPs that I thought was great. I even did a review on it that end up ultimately helping Insomniac get the Spider-Man game that I end up loving, and so many other people end up loving Spider-Man 2018, Sunset Overdrive. Insomniac is bought out by PlayStation now. Sony snatched their ass up. Insomniac made Sunset Overdrive, so they don't even have that. We could have possibly had a sequel to Sunset Overdrive by now. Because remember, Sunset Overdrive came out on the Xbox One. That was an Xbox One game. That wasn't a Series S game or a Series X. That was a Xbox One game. So we definitely could have had Sunset Overdrive 2 by now. But they don't even have that. They canceled Scalebound with fucking whatchamacallit. That hurt them a lot too. Even though that was more on Platinum side. That was more on Platinum side. I know a lot of people like to get mad at these corporations and blame them for shit. I'm one of them too. I like to look at EA and Activision and be like, oh, you motherfucker, you did this, and that. That's not the case. Even, what's his name? Hideki Kamiya came out. I think that's his name, the one that's over Platinum. He even came out and was like, nah, that was on us. We fucked up. The scale and scope of that shit was too big. And I'm paraphrasing of course here. I'm paraphrasing. There's a lot more to it, but that's basically what he said. He's like, it was too much. Like, we fucked that up big time. That was on them. But that being canceled, that really fucked over Xbox right there. Because a lot of people was looking forward to that game, including me. And the simple fact that did not come to fruition, that should tell you right there. But then it's kind of funny because then they turned around and put out fucking, oh my God, what is the name of that game? Talking about Platinum. What was the name of that fucking game they put out? Oh God, with the Sentinels? Babylon's Fall. But then they turn around and put that shit out. But anyway, that's a whole nother thing. That was dealing with Square Enix and their stupid shit. But yeah, the shitty thing about it is that I want to say more about what's going on with Xbox, but the problem is that there's not enough going on with Xbox. That's the problem. There's not enough going on because they're not fucking doing anything. They're putting out the same stuff. They're still putting out Gears. They're still putting out more Forza. I'm about to say Morza, but they're still putting out Forza. They're still putting out Halo. And all three of those franchises have been fucking wrung dry. And they will just not let them go. They will not let them go and rest in peace. They just want to keep on shoving that shit out the door because that's all they got. That's the only names that people associate with fucking Xbox. And that's sad. That's why my solution, once again, if they ever see this or if anybody wants to get this far and see this, my solution to this is that they need to go back to the drawing board and they need to cherry pick games. It doesn't even matter if it's a fucking indie game, even though I shouldn't say that because of what they just did to Tango Gameworks, but that's neither here nor there. My point is that it doesn't even matter at this point if it's an indie game or a AA game. It does not have to be a big blockbuster AAA game, which is what the gaming industry is riding on. I talked about that in my last Methough. If you want to go and watch it, go ahead. If you don't, that's fine too. But I've even brought that up, that's what a lot of these studios and companies think, that they have to make these big budget, multi-$100 million games, and that's not true. And I think that is what Xbox needs more than ever right now. This actually what they need to utilize to the max out of anything is the indie side, is the smaller games and smaller studios in their under their umbrella, because you can crank out those a lot faster, so you can give people a lot more games and say, hey, come over here. Not everything has to be a GTA 6. Not everything has to be a Last of Us or Gears of War or anything like that. Not everything has to have a big budget and all of that behind it. You can, and that's the thing that puzzles me so much with Hi-Fi Rush, because, and that's the way I'm gonna end it. It's sad that Xbox had the perfect solution, which is exactly what I'm talking about, focused on more smaller scale games and putting those out more frequently while you work on the bigger ones. And they had that with Hi-Fi Rush. Imagine if they would have, because once again, with how much praise that game got, imagine if Xbox at least made 4 Hi-Fi Rushes. At least 4 Hi-Fi Rushes. Nobody would give a shit. Nobody would be saying anything different. Nobody would be on their ass. Nobody would be saying anything for the most part. Everybody just be like, oh, okay, Xbox is actually putting out some games now. That's what's up. But no, instead they rather shut down the one studio that was their path into what I'm saying. Xbox, you need to put out smaller games. Fuck the big games. Let Gears of War and all of that shit take a rest. Ain't nobody really out here fiending for Halo no more. Let's be honest. I'm not even a huge Halo fan. And everybody that I watch that are Halo fans say the exact same thing. Let this fucking franchise go because they're not making it any better. It's just getting worse and worse and worse. The same thing with Gears. For me, it stopped at 3. But for a lot of people that continue to play, even they're saying the same thing. Like, bro, we need to let this fucking franchise die. This shit has been ran into the damn ground. It has. Think about it. Within the time that Xbox has made 6 Gears of War games. 6. Well, never mind. I take that back. Sony has now technically made 6 Uncharted games. I was about to say they've only made 4. But if you include all the mainline ones, that's 4. But then you have Lost Legacy and the PSP one. So never mind. Never mind. I can't even use that comparison. Well, let's say God of War then. No, because God of War came out during that time too. So ultimately, my point is, let fucking franchises die. Don't be afraid to tackle new ones. And go and tap into this fucking big ass catalog of studios that you've acquired, man. Get some fucking games out here. And don't be willing to shut down gaming studios just because they don't make a big hit, even though you didn't do anything to set them up for the big hit. You didn't even throw them niggas a oop. You fucking shadow dropped it the same day of and then turned around and closed them and was like, oh, but that wasn't good enough. Well, bitch, what you expect when you didn't give me nothing to work with? But anyway, that's what I think Xbox should do. That's what's going on with Xbox, and that's how we got here. That's the best way I can put it. All summarized into one sentence. One fucked up sentence, but a sentence nonetheless. And yeah, I think this is gonna be my last Methough for a minute, unless I can think of something else to talk about. Which even then with this was one of those where I was kind of like, should I even talk about it? Shouldn't I talk about it? You know, because it's not much to talk about, but the simple fact that they closed down Tango Gameworks after what they accomplished, it was just one of those things like, fuck it. Everybody else is putting their 2 cents in. Why not me? So hopefully my opinions and what I was talking about was concise enough and to the point enough. But even if it wasn't, you get my fucking point. Xbox is fucking up. They've been fucking up for quite some time. They're not as strong as they put themselves out there. And they need to get their shit together and start tapping into that fucking catalog of games that they got from Activision and all of that. They could honestly, all they would have to do is take a game in Xbox in Activision's library. I'm trying to think of one that they could easily throw out there that would get a lot of people on their side. But the problem is that people hate Activision so fucking much. It's like, what could you even put out that would make people want to run back to them? You know what I'm saying? Because Activision is such a fucking scummy ass company. I don't know, but you got all them fucking studios. Figure out something. Re-release Morrowind or something from Bethesda or Oblivion or some shit, or one of them fucking things. Release something, goddammit. I'm tired of seeing Gears of War, Halo, and Forza. If you gonna keep on pushing those down, I'll combined all 3 of them. Fuck it, I wouldn't mind seeing that. Who wouldn't want to see Master Chief in a Lamborghini going down the road with Marcus Phoenix sitting next to him and he's shooting the Nasher out of a fucking window, hitting Locust? That sounds entertaining to me. I mean, why not? That's better than fucking sitting here playing these games with the same characters that nobody give a fuck about. Anywho, that's all I gotta say. Hopefully Xbox can get their shit together, because at the end of the day, and I am going to officially end it here, because despite how much you may be a Xbox fanboy, despite how much you may be a PlayStation fanboy, despite how much you may be a Nintendo fanboy, a PC fanboy, whatever fucking fanboy for whatever stupid ass console you prefer to play on, because by the way, that shit's stupid. I don't understand how some of y'all niggas in y'all 30s, if not older, even older than me, and you over here fucking talking about Xbox is this, PlayStation is that, and vice versa. Grow the fuck up. Anyway, and I only say that because I still see that shit on Twitter. I swear to you, every time I go on Twitter, and yes, I'm calling it Twitter, I'm not calling it X. I don't give a fuck what Elon Musk says and it says on the website. It's still Twitter to me, and it's always going to be Twitter to me. But no, when I go on Twitter, I still see people reacting that way, especially when it comes to PlayStation news or Sony news or anything like that. There's niggas that still to this day be fighting tooth and nail over which one is superior. And that shit's just insane to me. But nonetheless, it doesn't matter what console you prefer, which one you hate. None of that matters. What matters is that competition drives innovation. It's just that simple. The more competition you have and the more people are willing to go toe to toe and compete with one another, the more they have to innovate. Why do you think the PlayStation came out the way it did when the PS4 came out? Why do you think the PS4 came out the way that it did? It's because they got their fucking ass kicked by Xbox during that 360 era. That was their competition. Remember, the PlayStation 2, even to this day, I think, if not close to it, is still one of the most selling consoles of all time. One of the best selling consoles of all time. The PlayStation 2 was being made up until like the mid 2010s, I think, in Japan, because it was that fucking popular. Like, Sony was still putting out PlayStation 2 consoles, or maybe that was a PlayStation 3. I take that back. Maybe it was a PlayStation 3. I don't know, because 2010, the PS3 would have been 4 years old. So I think they were still putting out and making PS2s well into the late 2010s, because it was just that fucking popular. If you go and look at the numbers, the PlayStation 2 sold hundreds of millions of consoles. So PlayStation was still riding on that high until they got smacked the fuck down with that PS3. And then Xbox took over. And like I said, it's just a cycle. That's all it is. So that's my whole outlook and take on the whole Xbox thing. They just need them first party exclusives, man. They really need to fucking hunker down and do like they did when the 360 came out. They need to go get them first party exclusives, even if it's from another developer or another studio, and just start tossing the bitches out. Do what Sony did. Do a 6-month deal. Because remember, that's what Sony was doing with a lot of shit. They was snatching them exclusives up and they was like, hey, give me a year or 6 months. It's fair game. It's fair fucking game. There's no reason why you shouldn't do the same. That's all I got.